Hey everyone, my name is Hannah Christine and I'm the founder and chief designer of Hide and Hunter. You are joining me in my courtyard today since we are working from home. I first want to say thank you so much for submitting these questions. Y'all really did a great job. The second thing I will say is regardless of where you're at in your career or life, never be closed off to advice. So I'm going to be answering these questions as best as I can, but just know if there's any questions that I can't answer, I'll be sure as I learn and gain advice and wisdom from other people who have gone before me, I'll get back to you on answering the rest. So the first question is, did you always want to pursue a degree in apparel design and marketing? When I was prepping for college, I really sat down and took a look at what it was that naturally came easy to me, like what were my natural talents. And when I analyzed this, I recognized that math and the creative side was really what came easily to me. If you were to look at any of my sketches back in high school, you would not be impressed. They were not good. But I knew that, like I said, those two areas of schooling came easy to me. So when I was looking into my major, I knew that I always had a passion for bridal, so anything like wedding gowns, bridesmaids, dresses. So I went with the intention of going to school for design and marketing so that I could marry both the creative side and the business side and hopefully open up my own bridal line at some point. But you'll see as I morphed and grew and got through my college that my area of focus changed drastically from bridal to accessories. Let's see, what was the transition from high school to college at the University of Alabama like? Honestly, I went to a very small private Christian school, so going from that to a massive school like Alabama would have been really difficult. But honestly, when I sat down to start prepping for college, I really just sat and soberly looked at what college represented to me. What was its truth? And the truth was I was the first kid or the first generation from my family to go to college. So with that being said, I knew that my focus was not social. It was not to go and get crazy, but to focus on studies first and social second. So if I could go through my days and check off everything on my list that had to do with school, whatever time I had left, I was able to fill in with my social. So I was able to achieve not only good grades, but I was able to also have fun in the process. So I just went in with a good game plan and a good head on my shoulders, knowing what was expected of me. 3, did you ever second guess whether you pursued the right career? What were other careers you considered? I actually considered accounting just because math came very easily to me, but I just knew I was not going to do well at a traditional desk type of job. So, and as for me second guessing my career, I think in the beginning when I started off in apparel design, I definitely second guessed myself a lot. In the fashion field, it can tend to be very shallow, but I think that can be how it is in a lot of different fields. And I think it's normal to second guess where you're at location or career-wise in life if you don't check off the two following things. And the first one is financial stability. Can your career provide you a living? Can it support you and anyone who relies on you? So like for me, it would be myself, my employees. I don't have a family of my own, so I have my 2 dogs. So whatever I did, I would have to be able to support that grouping of people. And I think the second check mark you want to check is the subject of, is it creating a positive influence? Whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm at in career or in life, am I creating a positive influence? And if you can check off both of those things, then I think you're in a good place. And to me, you know, when I started Hide and Hunter, I definitely did second guess things, and sometimes even now I do. But when I was able to realign Hide and Hunter as more of a give back brand, which is where as we make money, we donate money to different charities or organizations that help people, that's when I really knew I was in the right place, because I was not only financially providing for myself, but I was also providing not only financially for someone else, but I was helping people grow emotionally, spiritually, and help them gain more of a direction for their life. So now I don't second guess myself as much. So that's a beautiful thing. I definitely say finance and influence are those. You really need to look at what you're doing and see how what you're doing aligns with those two things. What did you learn during your internship with anthropology in New York that has benefited you today? Honestly, I learned two things. One had nothing to do with the internship, and the second thing had, for the most part, to do with the internship. The first thing I learned that I would say would be the most important thing was my strength in overcoming obstacles. I think it's interesting to see what the human body is capable of doing when it's put in a stressful situation. And for me, I realized my own strength. Being raised in a very small hometown of Pensacola, Florida, and then going to even a large college town, it's still kind of that small town feel. So nothing could have really prepared me for New York. So I really learned what I was capable of overcoming and withstanding, and my own, I guess, street smarts that I never had to put to use before. The second thing I learned would be merchandising your worth. And this can be as a product, whatever product or service you're providing, but I think you can also apply it to yourself. Through anthropology, I learned how important it is to merchandise and display your product so that it subliminally tells your customer this product that you're paying for is worth every penny. It's high quality, it's craftsmanship. The craftsmanship is beautiful, and it's not just a piece of junk that's just thrown on a table. It also sometimes allows the customer, if you have the product set up in a certain way, the ability to kind of visualize how they can accessorize. For me, because we provide bags, accessorize an outfit or certain events that they're going to. So I think you can. So like I said, that applies to not only your product, but yourself. If you present yourself in a respectful way, if you are responsible, if you're an honest person, then people are going to want to do business with you. Which in return, if you're presenting yourself in a good way, then that doesn't affect or take away from your company. It's improving your company. So I think those were the two things that I really learned in my process of working or interning for anthropology in New York. Let's see. 5. Have you had a mentor in your career? Who was it, and how did they mentor you? I'm an avid believer that, mentors are supposed to be good, but if there's ever a situation where you have a negative or a mentor that maybe turns out not to be the best influence, don't ever see that as wasted time. Take what you've learned from that negative situation and apply it to your history of experience, and learn from it. But for me, I haven't really had any negative mentors. I've had really good ones, and the two different areas of mentors I've had would be, one would be more business side, like retail and wholesale side, which would be the boutiques and the vendors like me. I really wanted to get a fair idea of how to price my product, how to present my product, not only to cover my costs and to pay for my time because I'm valuable, but to also price it at a point that's fair for the boutiques and the customers who are wanting to buy that. So I approached not only my vendor side, which would be someone like me, but someone also from the retail side of the coin as well. The second person I had as a mentor, my parents were huge mentors and they really helped me in a lot of areas, but they were not entrepreneurs. They didn't start their own business, so I really needed someone from that mindset, from that angle. And I had a good friend whose father was just pretty much all around, had several businesses, had a lot of experience under his belt, and his name was Mr. Don, and he really taught me the value of protecting myself legally, protecting my company, and I think that's important to have a mentor. For me, it was very important because I didn't understand a lot of that stuff going into it, and if you have a dream and you have a passion and a vision that you believe in, you need to protect that so that no one can come and either take that idea or destroy that idea. So you really need to protect yourself. Even if you don't really know conceptually what your product is going to be, if you have an idea of what your name is going to be or the theme of your product, go ahead and start researching ideas of how to legally go about protecting yourself. Let's see. How valuable do you believe it is for a student to have a mentor? I think it's extremely valuable. I think it's valuable regardless of if you're a student, regardless of if you're out of school, or just in life in general. There's a few areas that I believe students or young business people should have careers or should have mentors, and one would be in the area of business and finance. I think you need someone to really kind of teach you, especially if you didn't have anyone like in your family or your immediate circle who could give you advice on this. Have someone that will sit down and teach you organization of a business, how to set one up, and all of that. So I think that's the first business and financial mentor is important. The second mentor that's really important to me is character. And I kind of touched on this a little bit before. Like, have someone that you consider a role model, not only in like success career-wise, but success as a human being. Like I said, if you're someone who exudes honesty and a positive attitude and a trustworthy business, low battery, business model, then people are going to want to do more work with you, which is going to improve not only your company, but also increase your financial side of things. The third thing I would also advise someone to have, and this can be a mentor, but it's also kind of just a support system. And this would be what I would call accountability partners. So this would be someone who's just in your immediate group, like someone that you're really close to, or a group of people that you're really close to that you can go to when times get tough. Life is difficult, and life has a way of casting a shadow on what you believe to be a good idea and what you're passionate about. And I mean, that happens to everyone, and it's important that as you're going through these moments of difficulty or uncertainty, to have that group of people who know your dreams and who know what you're capable of doing, so that when you're unsure and when you're feeling like you're a little lost in what you're doing, they're there to remind you that what you're doing is a good idea, and to continue to point you in that direction. I once had someone tell me that in life, be sure to memorize, dwell on it daily, what it is you want to do, what this vision is for your life that you believe you are here on this earth for, so that when times do get difficult and when you can't see and it's dark, you'll have it memorized. And because there's sometimes where we're not always inspired and we're not always motivated, you know, we kind of get in ruts, but it's important to have that dream memorized so that in those days we can keep trucking along and moving forward and not lose sight of what our focus is. Let's see, how much startup money do I realistically need, in your opinion, to open up my own fashion boutique? Honestly, we're not a boutique. We don't have a brick and mortar store, which means we don't have an actual standing store that you would walk into and buy our product. We do everything online. We do sell our product to retailers where you can go in and purchase, but honestly, I believe you can start up anything with very little money. It's all in the process. Hide and Hunter was started off of $50, and as we made money, we just continued to take the money that we made and injected it back into our business, and like little by little we grew. It's important, I would say, as if you have an idea and you have the opportunity to have a job that maybe will give you the ability to gain some experience in a field that would benefit your upcoming company or your idea, begin forming that boutique or that label or that service that you want to provide while you're working for them. That way, as you're having the steady paycheck come in, you can take some of that money and apply it to your company and slowly build it. That way you're not in a big time crunch or money crunch to get everything done. So let's see, I would also encourage, if you don't have a huge amount of money or budget to put into something, which Hide and Hunter did not. We were like college kid like salary, I guess you would say. We've had very little to put into the company. Maybe start small. Start with social media presence. Start selling everything on there. That's how we do most of our business, is through social media, like Instagram and Facebook, while we're editing and updating our website. So that's a free tool to use. Also, instead of having a brick and mortar store, maybe start with an online boutique, so that way you're not having to pay the overhead of rent and all these other things. you're keeping your fees down to a minimum, and you can really focus on the product and the sales of that product instead of having to sink a whole bunch of money into the surrounding cosmetics of a boutique. Let's see. I love the idea of opening up my own business, but the actual process of opening a business seems overwhelming. It does definitely seem overwhelming, and it can be, but it's okay. You can do it for sure. If I can do it, you can do it. How did you know what to do? What is the process for setting up a business? So honestly, I had no idea what to do. I just had an idea and a concept that I was interested in pursuing, and it was very abstract. I just knew kind of the product that I was wanting to do, and so I sought guidance, like to the mentors that I mentioned earlier, and different people, and kind of bounce some ideas off people that I trusted, so that I didn't have to worry about them taking my idea and running with it, or giving me false advice. And in the process of just gaining knowledge and wisdom from people who have gone before me, that's really how I started my business of Hide and Hunter online. How do you organize your sales and expense? The first thing I would say that is very important in this is to be sure, if you are starting a business, whether it's for a product, a service, or whatever, to have 2 separate bank accounts. That was something that I really realized. If you do not have 2 separate bank accounts, a personal one and a business one, then it can make things very confusing and very unorganized. You don't want to be withdrawing money from one bank account for expenses or material or anything, and then also putting money in to your personal account that's from business. It's hard to keep up what you personally have, what you're personally making, and what the business is making, or what it's been spending. So I would definitely say start off with 2 separate bank accounts. The second thing I would say is have a filing system. As you receive receipts, as you make purchases, always file, whether it's a physical file that you have that you can slip these receipts in, or whether it's a file on your email when you're receiving receipts from different websites. Over organize, have files for everything, whether it's for gas, whether it's for materials, whether it's for travel. File everything so that at the end of the year you have all that really handy. What steps are necessary to be able to hire on additional employees if needed? Honestly, with this, we are still in this process. We have a few people that work for us, but I honestly, when I started Hide and Hunter, for the longest time, which ended up to be very stressful, because I think there's a breaking point where you got to realize I've got to release responsibility, no matter, because I can tend to be a little bit of a control freak with certain things, but I say for as long as you can, without it physically affecting you or financially affecting you, do as much as you can on your own. This will save you money. It'll save you the headache of hiring, which, I mean, hiring is not always a headache, but it does take time and money to do. And then as you get to a place where your sales are rolling in, then research different hiring techniques. You can do internships. These internships can either be paid for like whatever you set the payment at, or it can be an unpaid intern, but the people you're hiring are really gaining real world knowledge in the field, but you're not having to financially spend the money to have them come on for that learning process. So internships are really good. Once you realize about being a business owner that could benefit students. I would say the one thing that I really realized as being a business owner and as a young woman business owner was the influence I have. I know when I was going to college or looking at internships and everything, when you're applying for jobs, they always say, oh, you need 2 years of experience. Or when you're trying to get advice on how to get started or direction, a lot of people don't often have time to sit down and kind of tell you about what they went through when they were getting started. So I think what I realized was my influence as a young business owner and woman was that I could sit down and I could really give some of my time to people and encourage them in their direction and let them know that regardless of what opportunity you came from, what financial backing you have or don't have, I didn't have any, regardless of anything, you can make something out of very little as long as you have the focus, the drive, and you don't give that up. So I think for me, it was just the ability to inspire people and to encourage them in their own dreams. see. With social media, how important is a social media presence in building your brand, Hide and Hunter? Do you locate new customers primarily through social media or other avenues? Social media for us was what got us started. We really hit social media hard. I think y'all asked me a question a little bit later, but I'll go ahead and touch on this. I think when you have an idea of a business that you're wanting to do, the first thing you should do that's totally easy, that can just knock it out of the way and lay the groundwork for your company is reserving your social media handle. So like ours is at Hide and Hunter for Instagram and Facebook. When I had this idea of Hide and Hunter, I didn't, before telling people about it, before putting product out there, I reserved my website and my social media name. That way no one could take it as I started marketing my product. So social media for us was a huge thing because that's really how our sales and most of our sales, where they come from. Social media is awesome because, you know, of course everyone knows about hashtags kind of separating your post into subject matter, but what we did, and you would really have to cover this through your business, was every couple months, a few times a year, we would select a grouping of bloggers or people, whoever, that we felt really embodied the Hide and Hunter image or like customer base. But it was someone that we took the time to really review their profile, review what they were about, get to know them through their story, and decide if we really felt like they presented a classy, respectful, and fun lifestyle. And of course they would have to have a pretty good following, because what we would do is once we decided on a few people, we would gift them some kind of product with the understanding that they would repost it. And when they did this was a way, even though we didn't make any money off of that product, in the end it was a money maker because we were able to gain a larger customer base from their customers and get our name out there. So social media was a huge deal for us. Also, what we've noticed through social media, as customers get to know us, they build a rapport with us, and we really get to know, because we're still in a smaller, I guess we're still somewhat small as a business, so we are able to kind of have a one-on-one with our customer. And a lot of customers reach out to us about doing shows and trunk shows, and trunk shows are a huge opportunity for us to meet our customer face-to-face and to get our product out there. And it's just a really fun event. So we'll go either to their personal home or to a boutique, and we'll set up all of our product, and customers will come in that day and they'll just get to shopping. And it's a good way for us to make fast money, but also not only that, people are able to put a face with the name and a face with the product, which I think is very important. 11. What has been the biggest hurdle you have had to overcome since leaving the corporate world and being on your own? The biggest hurdle, or hurdles I will say, is first, something that you just need to really think about is when you work for yourself, you will not have that steady paycheck coming in from a corporation or for a business that's been founded and financially secure and stable. When you work for yourself, what you're getting out of it is what you put into it. So that can be definitely scary, but it can also be a motivator. So just be aware. That was something that I really learned about, was if I wanted to make money, I had to really work hard. No one was going to pay me for sick days. No one was going to pay me for holiday. So it was really whatever I was willing to put into it was what I was willing to get out of it. The other thing I would say that I learned since leaving corporate, I think I mentioned this earlier, I covered a lot of the expenses in building my company prior to leaving. I interned for Anthropologie, but I also designed for Dillard's corporate for a couple years, and while I was working for them, I had that steady paycheck coming in, and I was able to take money from that paycheck and put it into the foundation of Hide and Hunter. So when I had the idea of Hide and Hunter, I went ahead and reserved my social media pages, but I also went online and researched to see if my idea was already out there, if it was already taken by someone else. So I recognized when I went to GoDaddy.com, which is a place you can purchase your domain name, I found out that Hide and Hunter was not taken. So I bought the website hideandhunter.com so that no one else could reserve it, and that costs money. So I did that. I think it's also important, like I mentioned before, like legally protecting yourself. So when I was working for a corporation, I really was able to secure most of my legal side of my business prior to leaving. And that's very important to do, because once you go out on your own, you don't have that steady income coming in, and you're having to pocket, or you're having to pay out of pocket all the fees and charges it costs to set up your business legally. So I got most of mine done when I was working for a corporate company, but there was a little bit of it that I didn't, and that was really difficult for me because it caused money to be very tight. Whereas if I were to have paid all that while I was working for someone else, I wouldn't have had to put so much money into the legal side, and instead I could have put it towards the product and building more of the product. Let's see. What are your long-term goals in your career? Long-term goals would be, I mentioned earlier that how we restructured Hide & Hunter to be more of a give-back brand. My long-term goals would be for me personally, to focus more on the outreach of Hide & Hunter. Hide & Hunter is our brand, but we have a philanthropy nonprofit organization attached to it called the Hide Foundation. And I think my biggest goal would be to really get that up and running. And what that would be is we would be providing funds and the materials to speak with people that, regardless of opportunity, regardless of your family background or where you were born and raised or decisions you've made in your past, those things should never define your future and what you're capable of achieving and doing in your future. Each of us are very powerful, and we all have a set of skills given to us specifically, and I think it's important to realize that, and to realize that we each have a purpose on this earth, and we should never allow our surroundings to hinder us from realizing that and achieving that purpose. So that would be my long-term goal, is to really set Hide & Hunter up where I can more focus on that and where we can reach more people in that area. Any final thoughts, wisdom, or insight you would like to share with your students on your journey, school, career that could benefit students as they take their journey? Honestly, I just want to say that I think as long as you have a few things, you will be successful in whatever you do. As long as you have a passion for your ideas and for life and for what you want to do, that's important. If you have perspective and what it's going to take to get there, that's a really important thing. I think oftentimes we get discouraged in life because we have this vision, we have this really great idea, and that's step C, right? But we're at A, seeing this vision or wanting to achieve it, and sometimes it seems so impossible to get there because we don't know what B is. But I just want you to know, if you have a vision, that's the biggest thing. Have that vision, have that goal, and as you take each day step by step, you'll realize that as the days go by, as you start learning new things, as you start experiencing new things and meeting new people and forming those connections, you'll look back and realize, oh, I'm a far ways away from A, where I started, and it's not so impossible anymore. You start getting closer and closer to your dream. So just stay passionate, have perspective, and prioritize that dream. Know that maybe instead of buying a $20 dinner, I'm going to put that towards my company. Or instead of going to see a concert tonight with some friends, I'm going to sit down and really research my customer demographics, or who I'm trying to reach and the best way to reach them, or different marketing strategies. And I know that sounds like really monotonous and not fun, but when you're putting that time into something that's going to build this empire, because essentially that's what you're trying to build, right? An empire to support not only yourself, but the people who rely on you, you'll realize that you begin to enjoy those things, and those things should take priority because you're trying to build something for yourself. I also want to stress that a lot of y'all are going from high school into college, and I don't want y'all to be stressed about having to have it figured out by a certain day or by a certain grade in school. I think it's important to start thinking right now, what is it that I'm passionate about? What is it going to be that's going to fulfill me? And if you go in with that mindset, it'll help kind of direct you and start allowing you to think towards what you want to do. But in no ways do you have to know it now. Honestly, I didn't really know that I wanted to do hide and hunter until around graduation, and really not specifically until probably a year or two after college. So don't ever be discouraged or feel like you're behind if you don't check the check boxes that this world gives us that we should have checked by a certain time in life. So just don't get discouraged on that, and just know that in order to be really fulfilled, something that I realized is that not only, like I said, financially do I need to be able to provide for myself, but you need to realize that in each of us, we're all given the passion, whether we really recognize it or not, that as we help others, that's really what gets us excited and gets us going and gets us feeling fulfilled. So whatever you do, try to always have it kind of grounded in some way to helping someone else. And if you're helping someone else, it's gonna not only grow you as a person, but it is gonna grow your business, and it'll really help develop you. And it's such a beautiful thing when you can help other people, because you've been so fortunate and you've learned so much, to take the time and put some of that energy into someone else and encouraging them and motivating them. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm so proud of y'all. Good luck on college or whatever stage you're at, and I look forward to hearing more from y'all.